This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
Thanksgiving just days away, but Kenny and I always thankful when you punch us up on your remote.
Absolutely, that is true. Happy to be with you for the next 30 minutes. Without further delay, let's go ahead and show you what's coming up on the program. Of course, navigating through a pandemic, challenging to say the least, but from what we're hearing, the cotton harvest is shaping up to be a good one. Damon Jones on the steps one producer took to ensure his growing season was a safe and profitable one.
And speaking of the pandemic, if you've incurred losses due to COVID-19, there is new information regarding round 2 of the USDA Food Assistance Program. John Holcomb is going to break it down for us. Plus, it's a look at a day in the life of current GFB Women's Committee Chair Heather Cabe, how the pandemic altered her current term, and who Heather says has been her biggest supporters throughout the process. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
With low commodity prices and trade wars to navigate, it's been a challenging time for the cotton industry. However, with the 2020 harvest now in full swing, optimism is growing. Damon Jones has that story.
Time to fire up those combines as months of hard work and patience from cotton growers is finally being rewarded with harvest season. And the early returns are promising as both the quality and quantity is looking good for a majority of the crop. This despite some setbacks from Mother Nature.
So far, so good. On the irrigated, we may be off a little bit on our irrigated yields, but all in all, we got a good crop. I've seen some yields that have come through, some grades that have come through already. We got some good grades. We're just now starting into our dry land cotton, and it's marginal. Going into July 4th, had a fantastic looking crop, but after that, we got some of that hot, dry weather that we always expect, and that really kind of took a toll on us on the dry land side.
Obviously, weather hasn't been the only obstacle to overcome, as the ongoing pandemic, along with other common problems, made planting difficult.
Well, we always have a lot of wildlife issues. Deer have become a terrible nuisance to us. We've lost countless acres of soybeans and cotton to the deer. Going into planting season, we were really concerned with the virus and how it would affect us being able to get our crop in the ground. We were scared of having one of our guys go out when we really needed him.
Fortunately, that never turned into a reality as precautions were taken in plenty of time to prevent any outbreaks.
We made sure all our guys packed their lunch. We didn't interact any more than we had to. We stayed on the tractor. I told them, I said, I can't control y'all when you go home, but please, I need you. We need to get this crop in the ground. So they did the best they could, and we were all healthy, thank the Lord, and so far so good on that front.
That means there'll be plenty of cotton to harvest over the next couple of months, and with less than half of it out of the field, the priority for growers is very simple.
I just want to get in as quickly as I can, The longer it's out there, the more exposed I am to risk, to losing my crop due to hurricanes, but the grades will never get any better than they are today. Every day it's out there, I'm losing pounds and losing grades, so I want to get it in as soon as possible.
And that will be important for the growers as prices have been steadily on the rise during 2020 as the trade war with China has seen a resolution. Between that and people looking to get back to normal, optimism is high heading into the new year.
I think that everybody in the world realizes we've got to start living again. We're going to start, this is something that we're going to have to deal with. People are going to start buying more clothes. They're going to start trying to live their life as normal as possible. People have to have cotton. Cotton is something that's necessary in this world, and I believe the demand is going to come back. I think we're going to start seeing more and more shipments to China. I'm very optimistic. I think that we're going to have a price that we can live with.
Reporting from Jackson County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Meantime, it goes without saying the pandemic hasn't been kind to anyone, especially to farmers and producers across the country. Now, to help offset that, Congress and the USDA have stepped in to help. John Holcomb explains.
Since March, everyone has been affected in some capacity by the coronavirus, and those that produce our food and fiber have not been exempt. In fact, the effect of the pandemic is just one more kick to the stomach to farmers and producers, given the fact that for years now, farmers have been hurting due to prices, weather, and trade disputes.
A lot of farmers, including us, we have been waiting on some trade deals, and we've been putting up with some low prices because of some of the trade heartaches, but which we support that, and we know it's going to be better. And a lot of our crops were not priced, thinking they might go up. We had some in the bins storing, and and then we get caught with this pandemic, and we had no clue that the severity of it. And then once we realized that, we went ahead and started pricing our corn and some of those stuff, and and definitely took a loss.
It's because of those losses that Congress and the USDA have created some assistance to farmers through the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, which include payments for losses suffered due to COVID-19, something that not only helps producers, but consumers as well.
We go out here and we plant our crops this spring, not knowing what our prices are going to be, not knowing the future, nervous about the low prices, but with some of the assistance, it allows us to know that hopefully we're gonna be able to farm another year and keep going, because it's important to keep these farmers going, because that means cheaper food, and I think that's what, as a whole, I think that's what the government assistance program has done. It's making sure that we have cheaper food supply.
The first round of assistance ended back in September, but due to losses that have continued to happen, the USDA announced the second round. All they have to do is show their losses and fill out an application.
One of the nice things about this program is that it's a producer self-certification. So, when we say self-certification, that means the producer comes up with those numbers. So those sales numbers, those inventory numbers. And so the producer's probably has to do a little bit of work to kind of dig up some records, to be able to come up with those numbers. And then they basically enter those into that application.
For farmers and producers that have suffered, there are all kinds of helpful information that can be found online to help them apply for the assistance.
Go to farmers.gov/CFAP, that's CFAP, and about any question someone would have is going to be answered on that website. If you're a producer that's familiar with the Farm Service Agency, you've done business there before, I would encourage them also just to pick up the phone or send an email to your local Farm Service Agency office. The local expert is going to be our staff there in those local offices.
The application deadline for CFAP 2 is December 11th. Reporting in Madison County for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John, thank you so much. After the break, our one-on-one conversation with current GFB Women's Committee Chair Heather Cabe. The ways in which she's balancing being a mother, a farmer's wife, an advocate for agriculture, all while trying to maneuver through the challenges of a worldwide pandemic.
Hello everyone, Seth Hawkins, Community Forester with the Georgia Forestry Commission here. Welcome to another episode of our Ask the Arborist Tree Care video series. In today's episode, we're going to talk about root and soil disturbance and how to map out our root systems of our trees in our backyard so we make sure we don't impact those root systems too heavily. So when we're talking about our trees' root systems, it's super important to understand that the tree's roots are the most important part of the tree. Everything on the tree is predicated on having a healthy root system. So it's really important for us to understand where our critical root zone is and how deep our roots are when we're doing any kind of soil disturbing activity, putting any impervious surface in, just anything that's going to impact that root system. So when we talk about our critical root zone, which is the most crucial part of the root zone that the tree needs to be undisturbed and healthy in order for the tree to thrive. So you can see in the tree behind me, roots really are pretty shallow up in the ground. Really, especially in heavier soils, our roots are in the top about 12 or 18 inches of soil, so not very deep. So that makes them really susceptible to any kind of soil disturbance. And so when we're having to look at disturbing soil around our trees, it's important to understand how far out they go. So when we talk about that critical root zone, we have to measure the diameter and figure out the radius of that critical root zone so we know how far out our roots go and where we can get away with some soil disturbance. So usually you take that diameter measurement at 4.5 feet off the ground, which is called DBH, or diameter at breast height, which is a forester and arborist term. In the case of this tree, there were some branches that came out at 4.5 feet. So in that case, you take your diameter measurement at the most narrow spot below that trunk split, or that change in the trunk diameter. So once you take your diameter measurement, in this case, it was 8 inches on this tree. You take that 8 inches, multiply it by a factor of 1.3, and that will give you the radius in feet of your critical root zone. So for that tree, it ended up being about 10.5 feet in all directions is our critical root zone. So the rule of thumb with root and soil disturbance is you do not want to impact any more than 25 or 30% of that critical root zone. You can get away with some soil disturbance inside the critical root zone, but that 25 to 30% threshold is the top end threshold when you can expect the tree to start to decline if we impact more than that. So as you can see with this tree, there was some recent road widening and pavement installation here, and you can see that a lot more than 30% of the critical root zone of this tree got impacted. So we'll need to keep a close eye on this tree in the coming years, just to look out for any signs of decline that might come from that root loss and root damage. And one other thing I'd like to mention when we're talking about root protection and soil disturbance is soil compaction. So soil compaction can be as detrimental to a root system as tearing and ripping roots can be. So soil can be compacted by things like vehicular or foot traffic. Even the pounding energy of raindrops on unprotected soil can recompact soil. So it's important for us to do things like limiting vehicular and foot traffic, or coordinating that traffic to always follow one single line across the tree root zone, so we're only compacting that one piece of dirt. Also, having good established mulch beds will help alleviate and prevent further soil compaction. So that's all we have today on root and soil disturbance. For more information on this topic and many other tree care topics, please go to our website, gatrees.org. You'll find a lot of resources there to help you understand how to better care for the trees in your backyard. We also invite you to visit our Ask the Arborist webpage, where you can submit tree questions and pictures, and our team of arborists will help get you on the right path with your tree care. So thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next episode.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's the fact that COVID-19 has turned our worlds upside down. Georgia Farm Bureau no exception. In response to the pandemic, it was decided that all sitting program chairs would have their current term extended through 2021. For Women's Committee Chair Heather Cabe, this created new challenges and the need for some divine intervention. Nonetheless, Heather tells me it's something she embraced and a responsibility she says was meant to be. "5 minutes with Heather Cabe, and you quickly realize farming and Farm Bureau is ingrained in her DNA. Honestly, there might be some merit to that. You see, her dad served on the Madison County Board for Georgia Farm Bureau. And in middle school, Heather won an essay contest sponsored by the organization. Then came her adult years, which saw Heather and husband Will chair the Young Farmer and Rancher Committee. That was followed by the Achievement Award. And now this, which is arguably the biggest challenge Heather has ever faced.
3 years prior to now is when I went on as the District 2 chair, and it was just such a different avenue of Farm Bureau that I'd never really explored before. Just being involved with ag in the classroom and being able to work with a group of ladies was different than anything that I had pursued through Young Farmers or anything like that on a county level. And so being involved with that state committee just really opened up different avenues and different ways to approach service in Farm Bureau. And when they asked me to be their state chair, I guess it was something that I had really hoped for, but never knew that it was attainable. I didn't know that that was my path, and I'm not really sure why the good Lord put it in my path, but I just tried to follow from His direction and to accept the nomination that those ladies had given me, and to do the best that I could for what I thought the Women's Committee should be doing.
Months later, Heather would once again look to the heavens for guidance. With COVID-19 limiting her role as committee chair and much of the activities moving to a virtual platform, she was given the choice to extend her tenure for another year. Not an easy decision by any means.
Well, I really didn't know what to think, and like I said before, I do not know why the good Lord chose me to be able to be the one that was going to serve for 2 extra years on this committee as chair. And I told Mr. Long when he called that I would have to pray about it and talk to my husband. And within the 12 hours of the time that I needed to make a decision, there were so many signs that just said, this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is where you have to be at for not only your family, but for this organization and the industry that you love. And so it wasn't a decision that came easy, but it was something that I felt confident in by the time that I said yes. I have found that trying to be at home and be a homemaker, to help on the farm as much as I can, to homeschool the kids, and to put something else on my plate has not been the easiest thing in the world. But what I have learned is that this group of ladies is a special group of people that want to serve and that are completely dedicated to the service that the Women's Committee has promised to do. And that's a passion that I have also. And when you get to work with a group of 9 other ladies and a coordinator as special as we have, it just drives you to be able to want to do more, to make time in your day, and to give back a little more each time that you go into the classroom or to get in front of a group of people. It's just a drive that this committee can only bring.
Of course, success takes a team effort, and the good Lord, not the only one Heather relies on for support and guidance. There's also the other man in her life, husband Will. Hardworking, dedicated, great husband and father. According to Heather, Will is all that and then some.
He has asked me from the get-go, if this is what you want to do, then say yes, and we will work towards it. It's never been a me thing, it's been an us thing the whole time. And as much of a teammate as he is, our kids are on that team, and they just go with the flow. If they need to ride with Daddy in the tractor while Mama goes to the classroom, then they do school in the tractor. And they talk about harvest and yields or how many cows they count, and they just do farm things to sub in for school that day while I'm off doing Farm Bureau things. And I would be remiss not to mention, I don't know if you can see in the background, but that brick house down the road, those are our biggest teammates here. We are a family farm through and through, 4th generation, but Will's parents are the ones that have played a huge part in this teammate thing also. They have supported us, they supported us when we were on the Young Farmer Committee. They have supported me being the women's chair. And we live and breathe Farm Bureau, and so their support has been utmost importance as well.
Amazing lady, isn't she? Well, when we come back, a unique look at the Georgia Forestry Commission's elite air operations team.
We have the best job in the world. I do this because I love it.
The only days I ever wake up and think that I don't want to go to work is the days like today when it's raining, because then I know I don't get to fly.
It's not lucrative by any means. It's not just like police work or ground firefighting, stuff like that. It's not, you can't do it for the money. You have to do it because it's something you really care about. And it being fun makes that a lot easier.
Most of the time, I'm worried about how quickly I can get to the fire, how quickly I can assist. What am I going to be doing when I get there? What am I going to see? What are they going to expect of me? If I'm flying the patrol side of things, it's a little easier because I know when I get there, I'm primarily going to be overwatching the guys and protecting them. If I'm flying the seats, I'm not going to get much time over the target before I've got to drop the water on the target. So I'm going to be relying on the Overwatch pilot to guide me in. So you start worrying about planning ahead and not getting much time to plan ahead and hoping that you're able to hit the target even, most of the time.
We try to train as much as we can so that the movements we make and the decisions we make are sort of automated or muscle memory. That's very important because of the excitement, the adrenaline, the need or desire to serve those that you're going to work with, the guys on the ground. You can forget or get in a hurry and forget things. And so we train heavily to make sure we react on a very regulated, routine way to these things. But through my mind is just always trying to do things as efficiently as we can and as safely as we can. And that doesn't make it any less fun or any less exciting. It just means that you know you're going to come home afterwards, and that's very important to us.
Well, it's a Thrush S2R H80. H80 is the GE engine. It's a 800 shaft horsepower turboprop engine. The airplane itself will hold up to 500 gallons of water or retardant or suppressant, depending on what we're doing. It's a two-place airplane. Normally we fly one pilot when we're doing the fire suppression or fire attack missions. But we do have the ability to carry a second person, say, for training purposes, or if, say, we want to put an incident commander or something over the fire and let him get a bird's eye view of the fire. The aircraft has probably about a 3.5 to 4 hour endurance, depending on how much fuel we're carrying and how much water and things like that. It goes about 150 miles per hour on average.
Most people don't realize that we even do this in Georgia. So that's the first reaction I get from most people. They're like, oh, we do that? Georgia has that kind of thing going on. So I think most people are surprised by that. In terms of just the work itself, I think people would probably be surprised to learn that it is something that takes a lot, maybe not surprised, it takes a lot of training, a lot of time, and a lot of education. It's not just a seat of your pants, Hollywood type thing where you just go out and fly and hot dog. It does take a lot of education and time and training to be prepared to do well. There's not a lot of room for error. We operate at high speeds, low altitudes with heavy loads, and we're over a fire, working in environments that you feel the pressure to succeed because you want to do well for the guys on the ground. You want them to be safe as well. And so you do have a tendency to want to push things to the edge so that you can succeed. And a lot of times you have to make a difficult decision of saying, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to go, I'm not going to take this flight, I'm going to do this from a different angle that may not be as effective, but it's more safe. And that's really the difference between a professional and a hot dog or somebody who's doing it for the adrenaline, is knowing when to stop and when to say no, because you coming home safely is as important as the successful mission sometimes, or all the time actually.
It actually starts about 12 miles out from the fire. I'm going to get on the radio, I'm going to call in to the Overwatch pilot and tell him I'm inbound. He's going to tell me where to go, how to approach. And then it's really about configuring the airplane for the drop itself. You're going to be dropping down, lowering your height to the drop altitude, which is 40 to 60 feet off of the target. You're going to be configuring your speed so that the speed is optimized for the water drop, because if you're going too fast, the water aerosolizes. If you're going too slow, you can stall the airplane. So you're trying to do several things at once: reconfiguring the aircraft, putting the aircraft into position, then holding it on the position, and then timing the drop itself. All the while you're flying through smoke, near fire. You've got large trees usually all around you. You've got other aircraft flying around you. So there's a lot of things going on that can mess up your situational awareness. So it really comes down to concentration. You have to divide your concentration to the most important moments, what's most important for that particular moment, and then just execute.
We love what we do. Every one of us probably, it would be very difficult for us to do anything else.
Not a bad gig, is it? No. Either is this one, but unfortunately, we are out of time.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor.
Stay healthy and stay safe.